They brought out a cake with gold lettering and sparklers. Everyone was clapping. Her boss gave a speech about leadership and resilience. Someone popped champagne, and she stood there glowing under the chandelier like nothing had ever happened. Until she saw me. The glass slipped from her hand first. It hit the marble in slow motion, like a warning shot before the storm. Everyone turned their heads to see what happened, but I already knew. She'd recognized me. She hadn't seen me in 3 years, but I hadn't changed that much. My hair was shorter, and I'd lost the weight, the stress weight, as I used to call it. But I still had the same shoulders, the same laugh, the same exact scar on my chin from where she once dropped her phone on my face in bed, and we laughed for 10 minutes straight. She didn't cry right away. That came about 30 seconds later, when I smiled. I didn't mean to smile. It just happened, and that broke her. She started sobbing like she'd just seen a ghost, clutching her stomach, mascara already running down her cheek. People rushed to her side. Her coworkers were asking if she was okay. Some whispered it might be food poisoning. Someone blamed the champagne. But I was the only one in the room who knew the truth. Because I was the secret she buried. The mistake she thought would never resurface. The man she destroyed, disappeared, and replaced. And I had just walked back into her life like a memory with legs. Let me rewind. I didn't come to ruin her night. I swear to you, I didn't even know she worked there. The only reason I was at that party in the first place was because of an accounting error. Yes, you read that right. An accounting error. 3 weeks before the party, I got an email from a corporate recruiter. They said my resume had landed in the wrong pile, and they wanted to fix that, immediately. Within days, I was flown out for meetings. Then interviews. Then a final negotiation that ended with me accepting a new role, completely blind to the fact that this company was hers. Not her company, she didn't own it. But she was their golden girl. The one in the brochures. The face on the team values page. The woman they said turned their brand around after hitting rock bottom. Funny, she hit rock bottom after using me to break her fall. That company party was her promotion celebration. Mine too, technically. But I wasn't there to be celebrated. I was there to remember who I was before her. To remember what it felt like to lose everything and still come out on the other side. And to watch her world quietly unravel from just one look, the same way mine once did from just one email. People think heartbreak looks cinematic, yelling in the rain, burning photographs, maybe a bottle of whiskey and some sad music. For me, it looked like a gallon-sized freezer bag with a wedding ring inside, shoved to the back of my freezer behind a half-eaten lasagna. I didn't even cry the day she left. I just stood there in our apartment, listening to the hum of the fridge and the silence of a home that used to echo with her Spotify playlists and 2 a.m. giggles. I remember taking off my ring, walking over to the kitchen, and dropping it in that plastic bag like I was putting away leftovers. Then I went back to the couch and sat there for hours, staring at the dent in the pillow where she used to rest her head. You know what the worst part was? I never even got a proper ending. No closure, no fight. No screaming match where I could say all the things I had rehearsed in my head. Just a sticky note on the bathroom mirror that said, "I'm sorry. I can't do this. You deserve better." Deserve better? I had just spent 2 years carrying our rent while she figured herself out. I cooked, cleaned, supported her when she dropped out of her marketing job to explore her purpose. And the only thing I got in return was a 7-word breakup note and a toothbrush that wasn't even mine. The day after she left, I found her Instagram story. She was in a rooftop bar with someone. I couldn't see his face, but his hand was on her thigh. She posted a quote with it. "Sometimes you have to break free to become who you were meant to be." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just turned off my phone and went back to the fridge. A week later, I found a letter in our mailbox. It was addressed to her, but had my name listed as care of. It was from a debt collection agency. Apparently, she'd maxed out our joint credit card before she left. Over $9,300. Flights, hotels, Uber charges in cities she told me she wasn't even in. It took me a while to realize the math didn't add up. She was cheating on me for months. Not just emotionally. She was booking entire getaways. Conferences that didn't exist. Business retreats that were just excuses to be with him. Whoever he was. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my sister. I couldn't. I was too ashamed. I just started waking up every morning with this pressure in my chest, like I was wearing a wet hoodie that I couldn't take off. Eventually, I moved. I changed cities, changed jobs. Left everything behind except the freezer bag with the ring. I brought it with me, put it in the new freezer. Never opened it. Never even looked at it. But I couldn't throw it out either. That bag held something heavier than gold. Regret. 3 years passed. And then, completely by accident, I took a job at the same company she had climbed her way up in. Of all the startups, in all the cities, I landed in hers. I didn't know until the day of the party. Until I saw the giant screen in the lobby that said, "Celebrating our VP of Brand Strategy, Eleanor Hart." Yeah, she had changed her name. New title, new identity, new everything. But I recognized her the moment I saw her reflection in the elevator mirror. And I knew right then. She had no idea I was about to walk back into her world. The Monday after the party, everything felt off. My keycard didn't work on the first try, the elevator was stuck on the 12th floor for almost 5 minutes, and the barista downstairs gave me oat milk even though I'd clearly asked for almond. Small glitches in the matrix, but they added up. I remember thinking, the universe knows something's coming. When I reached my desk, there was a glossy welcome packet waiting for me, stapled at the top with a tiny branded paperclip. Welcome to Lowering and Vale, where ideas become identity. Ugh, I hate corporate poetry. The whole thing smelled like lavender and desperation. I tossed it in my drawer and fired up my laptop. You'd think I'd be more rattled after seeing her break down in front of 100 people, but honestly, I felt weirdly calm. Maybe it was the way she looked at me, like she'd seen a ghost that still remembered her sins. Or maybe it was the fact that, for the first time in years, I had nothing to lose. You ever get so numb that even revenge feels like too much effort? That's where I was. But fate, or incompetence, had other plans. My first assignment as a senior content strategist was to review and archive old digital assets from previous brand campaigns. Basically, dig through years of forgotten files, decide what's worth keeping and what can be trashed. I was a glorified digital janitor. Perfect. So I went digging. The system was a mess. Folders inside folders, no naming conventions, video files with titles like final_v3_ul final. MOV. After 2 hours, I was drowning in fonts, pitch decks, and expired Dropbox links. But then, tucked inside a 2019 folder labeled Private Internal, Do Not Archive, I found a file called emh_voice_notes_02. M4A. I knew those initials. She used to scribble them on our grocery lists. Eleanor Marie Hart. She thought her full name sounded like royalty. I used to agree. I clicked play. It started with soft static, like she was sitting too close to the mic. Then her voice, shaken, frustrated, and very much not the polished VP the company now paraded around in brochures. February 14th. He found the receipt. I think he suspects. I tried to play it cool, but I know I fumbled it. I'm not built for lying. God, I never wanted this to get this far. Jaden says it's fine, that he'll handle it. But I don't know. I miss the days when Clarkson didn't look at me like I was someone else. I froze. Not because of what she said, but because of how she said my name. Like it still hurt to say it. Like it still meant something. I had to listen 3 times just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. The date matched exactly 1 week before she left me. She was already gone back then, just not physically. There were more files. 11 of them. All voice memos she must have recorded to keep herself from falling apart. Maybe she never meant for anyone to hear them. Maybe she thought she deleted them. I spent the entire afternoon listening, one by one. The story they told was complicated. She hadn't just cheated. She'd spiraled. Fast. Guilt, fear, some kind of panic about her identity, career, feeling trapped. Her words, not mine. But here's what broke me. He's the kindest person I've ever known. And I keep hurting him just by staying. That sentence should have felt like an apology. It didn't. It felt like a warning. Like she saw the pain coming and didn't stop it anyway. When I looked up, it was already past 7. The office was nearly empty. But 1 floor above me, the lights in the executive wing were still on. I copied the files to my personal drive. Not out of revenge. Not yet. But because I knew something I didn't before. She wasn't as put together as she pretended to be. And she wasn't done breaking things, even if she didn't realize it yet. The next morning, I requested access to the internal strategy archive. I told IT I was doing continuity checks. They approved it without blinking. If Eleanor had more secrets buried in this place, I was going to find them. By the end of my second week, I'd memorized the security code to the 19th floor archive room, the names of 3 janitors, and the number of seconds it took the hallway motion lights to shut off. 22. I'd also learned that if you search for anything related to Jaden R. Elwood in the lowering and Vale system, you get exactly 0 results. No employee ID, no exit paperwork, no project records. It's like he never existed. But I remembered him too well. He had a tattoo of coordinates on his collarbone. Used to say it was the spot where he realized who he really was. Eleanor, told me that during a dinner once, before she stopped telling me things entirely. I remember thinking it was the most pretentious thing I'd ever heard. Coordinates. Please. Now, sitting in that freezing archive room with a cup of vending machine coffee and a shared drive full of file names, I finally found something. A folder called Vaulted Pitches/Heart_Wood, archived 6 levels deep under Q1 discontinued concepts. No tags, no metadata, no modification logs, just a single 4 gigabytes presentation file titled Mythos. When I opened it, my screen froze for a full 7 seconds. No joke. It felt like the universe was holding its breath. Inside the deck were 47 slides, a brand pitch with stunning visuals, moody music samples, and voiceover notes. It was brilliant, arrogant, reckless, but brilliant. The kind of campaign that grabs the attention of award judges and makes your creative director sweat. I read every word, and about halfway through, my pulse started to climb. Slide 13. A brand is only real when it's willing to admit it's lied to you. Slide 20. Tell them what you were too afraid to say then. They'll forgive you for it now. Slide 35. You can't fake authenticity. You can only weaponize it. The whole thing read like a confession in disguise, like someone trying to process guilt through marketing copy. The name Mythos wasn't just a product. It was a mirror. And by the time I reached the final slide, a stark black screen with white type that read, "Control the story before it controls you," I knew without a doubt who had written it. It wasn't Jaden. It was her. The voiceover confirmed it. It was Eleanor, before she became the glossy version of herself. Her voice still cracked at the ends of sentences. She wasn't selling a brand. She was bleeding into a deck. And that's when it hit me. This campaign had never been launched because it was never meant to be. It was a mask, a private purge dressed up in pitch language. And someone in the company had tried to bury it. But here's the twist. The deck metadata showed something odd. The original version was authored by E.M. Hart, yes. But it had been edited, heavily, by a second user, J.R. Elwood, just days before it was archived. Only the final version remained. All backups had been scrubbed. I should have stopped there. Any normal person would have. But obsession doesn't come with breaks. I created a clone of the file and ran it through a forensic restoration tool I'd used once in a past freelance job recovering corrupted media. After 2 hours and a system restart, the software revealed something I wasn't prepared for. Redacted comments. Hundreds of them. Hidden behind invisible layers. This reads like you're writing to him. You sure you want this public? Why don't you just send it to him and be done with it? You said you weren't in love anymore. That's what you told me. He'll see this and know. Are you okay with that? These weren't corporate notes. They were conversations. Arguments, really. All embedded in a brand pitch meant to sell truth. I leaned back in my chair, heart pounding. She hadn't just left me for Jaden. She had tried to turn our story into content. He tried to stop her. She archived it anyway. And now here I was, reading their digital fallout in a fluorescent-lit room while she sat 1 floor above me, blissfully unaware that the lie she tried to erase had just landed back in my lap. This wasn't about cheating anymore. This was about ownership, about truth, and who gets to tell it. And I wasn't done digging. There's a very specific kind of silence that falls over an office at 6:42 p.m. on a Thursday. The kind where the air feels like it's holding its breath. Desks are abandoned, keyboards untouched, elevators quiet, and only the cleaning crew hums through the halls like ghosts in uniform. It's the hour of unfinished thoughts and unsent emails. And it's when I did it. I printed the slide. Just one. Slide 35. You can't fake authenticity. You can only weaponize it. I trimmed the edges with scissors, folded it once, clean, sharp crease, and slid it into an unmarked envelope. No name. No return address. Just that sentence, bold in Helvetica on matte white paper. Then I walked to the executive floor and dropped it under her office door. My hands were shaking the entire time. Not because I was afraid of getting caught. I wasn't. Security was half asleep, and if anyone asked, I could have said I was delivering a file for creative. No, I was shaking because I wasn't sure what I wanted more, for her to ignore it, or for her to know exactly where it came from. I didn't sleep that night. Not well. My brain ran loops, imagining her opening the envelope, heart skipping a beat as she saw the quote she once buried. Maybe she'd laugh it off. Maybe she'd panic. Maybe she'd do what she always did, pretend nothing happened and hope the truth died quietly. But Friday morning told me everything I needed to know. Eleanor Hart didn't show up for work. Her executive assistant, a guy named Mitchell who wore three-piece suits even on Zoom calls, told the office she was working remotely for a few days. No reason given. No follow-up emails. She vanished like a puff of perfume, leaving behind her title, her desk, and a faint whisper of panic that no one could quite place. Except me. That afternoon, I saw it, a notification. Internal memo update. A placeholder had been assigned to her department. Temporary point of contact while VP Hart is on personal leave. It wasn't just a sick day. She had cracked. That should have been enough. I should have let go, closed the file, deleted the audio notes, and tossed the printed slide into a shredder. But I didn't, because something had shifted inside me, and I didn't know how to stop it. I wasn't just uncovering her secrets anymore. I was curating them, watching how a single thread could unravel a carefully stitched life. But what scared me most was this. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like balance. I spent the weekend alone in my apartment, lights off, blinds drawn, listening to her old voice memos again. Not because I missed her, but because I needed to understand how someone could lie so beautifully and so completely. How do you say things like, he's the only person who's ever seen me, and still vanish without a goodbye? And then something happened that I didn't plan for. Sunday, 11:24 p.m., I received an email from a blocked address. Subject, don't. Body, I know it was you. Please don't do this. Please. No signature. Nothing else. I stared at it for a full minute. My chest tightened, not from fear, but from something worse. Recognition. That pleading tone. That wasn't VP Eleanor. That was the woman who once whispered poems to me at 2 a.m. and cried during laundry commercials. That was her. For the first time since the party, I didn't feel angry. I felt cornered. She knew, and I had her attention. The power had shifted, but not in the way I thought it would. I expected her to retaliate, maybe even threaten me. Instead, she asked me to stop. No denial. No gaslighting. Just a single-word subject line and a please. So I did something I swore I wouldn't. I replied. Subject, why? Body, you don't get to disappear and come back like nothing happened. You don't get to cry at a party and hope it erases everything. Why did you do it? I didn't send it right away. I rewrote it 4 times. Softened it, sharpened it, stripped it down again. Finally, I hit send. 2 minutes later, it bounced back. The account was already deleted. Just like her. Monday morning was a thunderstorm, not outside, inside me. My thoughts were like shattered glass, sharp and everywhere. I couldn't focus on my inbox. I didn't hear the people greeting me by name in the hallway, and I certainly didn't taste the coffee I accidentally made with salted oat milk because someone restocked the fridge wrong again. I was floating in that weird, lightheaded way when your body shows up to work, but your soul's still stuck in last night's email that never delivered. Her inbox was gone. Wiped. Even the company's internal messaging tool showed her as unknown user. That's not how leave of absence works. That's how digital ghosts are made. I sat in front of my dual monitors, staring at spreadsheets I didn't open, my fingers hovering over the keyboard like they'd forgotten how to move. I knew I was spiraling again. I knew it because I was doing that thing I always did in my worst moments. I started narrating my own life in my head like I was in a documentary no one would ever watch. Here sits Clarkson Hale, age 32, emotionally unequipped to deal with anything resembling closure, romance, or shared Google Drives. But I couldn't let it in like that. Not with a bounce-back message in a ghosted inbox. So I did what I promised myself I wouldn't do again. I went back into the system. The archive portal was more guarded now. Someone had password-protected entire folders that were wide open just days before. I should have taken that as a warning. Instead, I dug deeper, tracing timestamps, cross-referencing user activity logs, and trying to find patterns in what had been deleted or moved. That's when I found it, buried beneath a folder marked Client DV, Legacy/Internal Use Only, inside another folder labeled Albatross, a term that hadn't shown up anywhere else in the system. Inside was a single document, a PDF. No images, no formatting, just one title at the top of the first page. Compliance Irregularity, Phase 2B/Internal Report, Draft, Unsubmitted. The author? E.M. Hart. The date? 10 days before she left me. There was no intro, no summary, just bullet points. But my stomach turned with every line I read. Inconsistent contractor billing across J. Elwood's brand innovation pods. 4 travel invoices tied to non-existent events in Toronto, Austin, Lisbon, and Montreal. Falsified expense report totals inflated by 11 to 18% over 3 consecutive quarters. Payments authorized by temp staffers, some of whom were hired and terminated within the same 48-hour window. And then, at the very bottom, in bold, I am concerned this could result in serious legal exposure. Jaden insists these are misunderstandings. But if this goes further, I won't be able to stay silent. I scrolled down. Blank pages. Just silence after that bombshell. She knew. She had known. Before she left me, before the note on the mirror, before the crying at the company party, she was sitting on a ticking time bomb. And instead of reporting it, she walked away. From me. From the company. From everything. Suddenly, this wasn't about heartbreak anymore. It wasn't even about betrayal. It was about a cover-up. And I was now the only one in the building who knew it existed. I downloaded the file to a secure thumb drive I kept in my backpack. A relic from my freelance days when clients, accidentally, tried to ghost me after delivering final drafts. Then I shut the laptop, stared at my own reflection in the black screen, and whispered, "What the hell are you doing, man?" I didn't know. I truly didn't. But I knew this. If I was right, and Jaden, the guy she left me for, had defrauded the company, then she didn't just disappear out of guilt. She was running from something. Or someone. And now that I'd opened that file, I wasn't sure who was watching me, or how far they'd go to make sure this stayed buried. I didn't sleep that night. Again, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, heart pounding, running through every possible consequence of what I'd just uncovered. It wasn't just about Eleanor anymore. Not even about Jaden. It was about fraud, cover-ups, and a document that, if it got into the wrong hands, could shatter the careers of people way above my pay grade. And I had it. I got to the office early the next morning, earlier than usual. The halls were still dark, and the vending machine lights were the only things humming. My mind was spinning. I couldn't concentrate on anything else. I kept thinking about that folder name, Albatross, and how appropriate it was. In literature, an albatross is a burden. A curse you can't shake once it's around your neck. And now that file was mine. I opened my desk drawer to grab my notebook, and that's when I saw it. Folded once, wedged just underneath the lip of the drawer, where no one should have been able to reach unless they'd been inside my locked office. A small sticky note. Yellow. No handwriting. Just typed. You're asking questions. Stop. Some things get buried for a reason. No signature. No context. But I knew exactly what it was about. My first instinct was to get up and leave the building. Just walk out. Quit. Ghost everyone. Move again. I'd done it before. It wouldn't be hard to disappear. But then I remembered the voice memos. The pitch deck. The fact that Eleanor had been on the verge of doing the right thing and then didn't. What if I was the only person left who could? The truth is, I didn't feel brave. I felt stupid. That kind of sick-in-your-stomach stupidity where you know you've gone too far, but it's too late to back out. I read the note again. The font used was Arial Narrow, the kind IT uses when printing server logs. That meant whoever left it wasn't just some passive observer. They had access. Internal access. Someone on the inside knew what I had done. I spent the next 2 hours scanning every inch of my office, checking my devices for anything weird, looking over my shoulder like I was in a movie. I even unplugged the office webcam and taped over the microphone. Paranoid? Absolutely. But paranoia is just pattern recognition turned up to 11. I was still shaking when I logged in and started going through more internal files. That's when I noticed something new. A folder had been deleted from the archive. The Mythos deck was gone. Scrubbed from the system like it never existed. Which would have been alarming enough, except I never touched the original. I only cloned it. Someone else had access. That narrowed things down to maybe 5 people, all upper level. But I didn't trust anyone. So I did what I always do when I panic. I went for a walk I pretended was about coffee. In the lobby, I passed by Ava, one of the mid-level managers in research, someone I'd only talked to twice during onboarding. She stopped me mid-step. "Hey, you okay?" I smiled too quickly. "Yeah, just a lot of meetings." She paused. "You know, I saw something weird in the log activity this week. Files getting pulled from projects that were archived in 2019. Someone's fishing in old water." I froze. "You track archive activity?" She raised an eyebrow, like she wasn't sure whether to admit anything. "I track whatever the system flags. You might want to be careful. This place isn't as clean as it looks." And I swear I'm not making this up, she walked away like it was just small talk. Like we just talked about lunch spots or printer queues. But my mind was reeling. She knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. Enough to know I wasn't alone anymore. That maybe this wasn't just my burden to carry. Maybe other people had seen cracks forming and chose to stay quiet. Just like Eleanor had. That afternoon, I plugged in my personal drive and copied the entire Albatross folder to a private encrypted cloud account. If they wiped the internal system, I'd still have it. If they came after me legally, I could make a choice, leak it or walk away. But I also knew one thing. If someone left me a note, they were close enough to do worse. I couldn't trust Eleanor. I couldn't trust the company. And now, I couldn't even trust the silence. I didn't plan to see her again. After everything, the notes, the deleted files, the threats, the voice recordings, I thought the story was done. I'd braced for it to end in a legal notice or another mysterious email. I wasn't expecting a phone call from a blocked number on a quiet Sunday morning while I was folding laundry and wondering whether I should buy new socks or finally throw out the ones with holes. But it was her. She didn't say her name. She didn't have to. "Clarkson," she said, her voice softer than I remembered, slower too. "I know you have questions. I'm ready to answer them, but not over the phone." I don't know why I agreed. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I wanted to look her in the eyes and finally see something other than the person who left me behind like a half-finished thought. Maybe I wanted her to hurt the way I had. But that wasn't what happened. We met at a tiny cafe on the edge of the city, the kind of place with hand-painted menus and chipped mugs that somehow made the coffee taste better. She looked different, tired, but not fragile. She wore no makeup, just a gray sweater and a look I hadn't seen in years. Truth. Before I could say anything, she placed a manila envelope on the table and pushed it toward me. "I never submitted the report," she said, "because I was scared. Not of Jaden. Of myself. Of what people would think if they knew I stayed quiet." I opened the envelope. Inside was a printed copy of the Albatross report, plus a signed statement. Her confession. No legal spin. No corporate language. Just the truth. "I was going to send it," she said, staring out the window. I had everything ready. And then I panicked. I thought if I burned it all, maybe I could start over. But I couldn't. It followed me. Every promotion, every interview, every quiet moment. And when I saw you at that party, it all came crashing back. Because you were the only person who ever saw who I was. And you still looked at me like I mattered. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to throw the folder back at her and storm out. But I didn't. Because I could see it now. The guilt, the regret, the fact that she had been punishing herself longer than I ever could have. And something in me cracked. I didn't forgive her right there. That would have been too easy, too clean. But I did say something I never thought I would. "I believe you." She blinked. "You do?" I nodded. "I think you were scared. And I think you still are. But if you want to do the right thing now, I'll help you." We submitted the report together that week. To the board. To legal. To HR. Quietly, off the record, but fully. Jaden had already been gone. Some private settlement no one talked about. But the company launched an internal audit anyway. Quiet firings followed. Policy changes. Accountability. It didn't make headlines. It didn't become some viral expose. But it mattered. Eleanor resigned a month later. No fanfare. No press release. She said she wanted to live slower. Maybe write. Maybe teach. She sent me a letter afterward. Not an email. A real one. Handwritten in cursive. The kind no one writes anymore. It ended with this line. "You once told me that truth doesn't erase what we've done, but it can change what we do next. I finally understand what that means." As for me, I stayed at the company for a while, then left too. Started freelance work again, this time on my own terms. Small clients. Good people. I moved into a place with a window that gets morning sun and a kitchen that actually fits two people cooking at once. And one day, I opened my freezer. The ring was still there, inside the same plastic bag, next to a pint of mango sorbet. I didn't throw it out, but I did take it out. I held it for a moment, remembered everything. The laughter, the loss, the unbelievable pain, and the quiet way healing sneaks up on you when you least expect it. Then I walked out to the lake and let it go. Just let it go. And for the first time in years, I felt light.